The Yautjas return in a new animated movie on Hulu, so if you were hoping to catch a Predator on streaming, this is your lucky weekend. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell, here with my review of the new animated film Predator Killer of Killers, and if you didn't know that there was a new Predator movie coming out this weekend, I wouldn't blame you. This is, as I said, an animated film that is streaming on Hulu and or Disney Plus, depending on your region, and there hasn't been a whole lot of hype comparative to what you would see from a franchise like this. I would also understand if movies like The War of the Rohirrim had soured you on animated spin-off films for big franchises like this. But Killer of Killers is substantially better than the Lord of the Rings spinoff that hit theaters late last year, and I think that skipping it would be a big mistake, especially for Predator fans. Predator Killer of Killers is directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who also directed Prey, a movie that I really enjoyed, and will also direct the upcoming live-action film Predator Badlands. His co-director is Josh Wasung, a VFX veteran making his feature debut as a credited director, and the screenplay is from Micho Robert Rutare, who's written several low-budget movies and shows, but nothing that approaches this quality. Killer of Killers introduces us to a few different warriors who have all at one point faced off against a predator or Yautja on Earth at some point in the past. 3 chapters titled The Shield, the Sword, and the Bullet take us to the worlds of a Viking warrior, a Japanese ninja and samurai, and a World War II fighter pilot before tying the stories together with a grand finale. And yes, all of these different parts do tell the same basic story, which is about a human or a group of humans fighting a predator. But one thing that I think the movie does well is to give each of these fights something that sets it apart. All of the warriors that I'm talking about on both sides have distinct appearances, distinct weaponry, distinct fighting styles, and what that does is to make it interesting. I was genuinely engaged throughout, despite the fact that it could have been just a wash and repeat cycle of the same thing over and over again. One of the reasons I liked this movie so much is that it combines so much of what I enjoy about animation and comic books when it comes to storytelling. When I was a kid, I used to love comic book series like Marvel's What If and other one-shots and limited series because it would take you to a place in the story that you never thought that you would get to go. It was completely separated from the ongoing storyline. I could see a movie about one of the ideas in this film getting the green light, but I don't see a movie about all of them together getting made. And so what this movie really acts as is a 4-issue limited series about the history of human predator combat, and that appeals to me. I think that if Prey had not already been made into its own film, it could also have been a chapter in this movie. And honestly, I think that what's in this movie rises to the level of Prey. When it comes to animation tied to big franchises, you usually get one of two things. It's either a cheap cash-in on the brand name, or it's something that for whatever reason couldn't be done in live action. And Killer of Killers falls squarely into the second category. The movie features 3 distinctly different time periods, almost non-stop fighting, tons of blood and gore, and a finale that substantially ups the ante. To film this movie as written would have cost at least $150 million. And what Trachtenberg has done here is to tell a story that literally could not exist in another medium absent the studio agreeing to take on a massive financial risk. I love it when filmmakers take advantage of the medium of animation to show us that the world here really is limitless. These aren't just 3 simple predator versus human fights. We are going underwater, we're going over rooftops, we're going into mid-air dogfights. The weaponry that the predators use is complicated and feels like it was made by a species that is only engaged in intergalactic murder. I think that outside of things like the comic books and video games and other multimedia things that the Predator franchise has dipped its toes into, this is the most extreme predator fighting that we've seen because it isn't limited by, well, what can I bring to real life? And for the most part, I found it to be very thrilling. This also isn't what many animated spin-offs can be, which is disposable. Trachtenberg is devoted to both referencing and building the lore that's already been built in the other Predator films and projects, and fans of the movies are rewarded with some familiarity among all of the new characters and time periods. By the end of the movie, Killer of Killers has planted its flag firmly in the Predator mythology and leaves the door open to telling more stories, both in animated and live action form. And you can even translate that to real life. There's one voice actor who gets to join a very elite club with this film as far as franchise appearances. I think it's very fitting, and I'm glad that the opportunity came up for him to punch this ticket. Now, there were a couple of things that bothered me about the film. One of them involves the animation. It's a gorgeous animation style, but the way that the characters themselves are animated, the way that they use the frame rate, it looked at first to me like it was glitchy, like my internet speed maybe wasn't up to par. But after I understood that this was a deliberate choice and watched the movie for, I'd say, 5 to 10 minutes, my eyes adjusted and it didn't bother me anymore. But that might be something that some people struggle with. The movie also loses some steam in the finale. While I thought that it was an epic final sequence, it does fall victim to some of the more Hollywood cliches than you see in the earlier parts of the film that are a little more bleak and a little more tense. And I think it just goes to show you that it's a lot easier to tell the standalone parts of this movie than it is to tell the part that would sort of tie all of this together and not make it just 3 different anthology pieces. And I think that it would have probably been easier to just make this a standalone anthology film, but there were obviously greater ambitions. Now, it doesn't derail the whole thing, and by the time the movie was over, I was still engaged and invested in seeing more of what this animated universe might have to offer. When it comes to the Predator franchise, I unapologetically love the first movie, but I've never really vibed with most of the sequels. I see where the defenders of Predator 2 and Predators come from, but I have never really fully shared the enthusiasm for those movies. I think that the Alien vs. Predator films are not very good, particularly the second one. The less said about The Predator, the better. The only sequel that I've really liked up to this point is Prey, and I think that this movie joins Prey in the upper tier of Predator films with a pretty big gulf below them. Predator Badlands doesn't open until November, but if Trachtenberg can deliver a live-action film on par with this one, then I think that this nearly 40-year-old franchise may finally find itself on a winning streak. I'd say that this is a must-see for Predator fans, a movie of interest for animation fans, and really it would be a recommendation for me for anybody except the people that just don't like Predator movies or ultra-violent movies. Despite the stigma that comes with both franchise animated spin-offs and debuting direct-to-streaming, for me, Predator Killer of Killers easily falls into the it's good category, and at about an hour and 20 minutes, it's a quick watch. Plus, if you pair it with Ballerina, which is in theaters this weekend, it's a pretty great double feature for action fans. So those are my thoughts on Predator Killer of Killers. What do you think? Have you already checked it out on streaming? Will you be checking it out this weekend? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, stay tuned right here on the channel for the latest in movie news, reviews, box office, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.